Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I am joined by Minnesota Duluth freshman Katie Davis. Katie, welcome to the podcast, and how's everything going?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super good. We've had a hard week of training, so I'm excited for the weekend. But
Well, that's good to hear. And my first question to you is, what have you overall taken away from your first year in college hockey with all the craziness going around because of the coronavirus?
first and foremost, I'm definitely super grateful that we've been playing. Obviously, there's schools that aren't playing around the country, so that's been awesome. I've been able to get really close with my teammates, obviously, since it's hard meeting school friends online. And yeah, as far as like hockey, school, everything's going really good, and I've been learning a lot.
That's good. And what has been the biggest adjustment you've had to make to college hockey? Has it been more the mental side of the game, making quicker decisions with a puck, or is it more kind of just the physicality playing against players that are 4 years older than you are?
Yeah, I definitely say the physicality. I'm 5'2", so there's definitely some bigger girls, especially in our league. And even like our first practices, I definitely noticed that was like I was like falling down, stuff like that. And usually I play like I'm bigger, but that was something I kind of shied away from first semester. So I'm looking forward to changing that this coming half.
Yeah, and your team is currently 4-2 to start off the year. What are some of the positive and negative things you've taken away from the season so far?
Mm, Something that we've been working on as a team is showing up for like all our opponents. So obviously we got swept by the Gophers, and then we're able to sweep some of our other teams in our league. So just capitalizing on all our opportunities is something we can work on. So kind of bad and good. Um, I don't think there's any negatives off the top of my head.
Yeah, and what's it like to play in the WCHA? Obviously, you haven't played all of the teams yet, but
Mm.
such a great conference, so many great players. What's it like to be a part of that?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like you said, lots of like all across the board. You can't underestimate any team. Everyone's excited to play, and whether that's because they're playing us or they're just a part of the league, I have yet to figure out. But yeah, it's awesome. It's super fast, super physical. Everyone's very talented.
Yeah, and what's it like to play the season without any fans? And has that been an adjustment for yourself?
Mm, it's been definitely weird. I would say it's kind of adjustment for myself. I played at Edina the last 2 years, and we had a good amount of fans in the state championships and obviously bigger games. But I would say it's probably a bigger adjustment for the older girls at school since they like know what's different. And like we haven't played Wisconsin yet, but I'm sure that's very different, like going to the Bon and not having any fans. So
Yeah, and how do you try to bring some of that energy on the ice without any crowd noise to help your team?
yeah, it definitely all starts from the bench. Our captains are very vocal on and off the ice, but getting the girls going and just cheering each other on, I think, is really big. I would say our team is very good at communicating, so that hasn't been an issue for us so far.
Yeah, and you've also had to adjust to many schedule changes throughout the season. How have you mentally stayed prepared for all those changes and postponements that are bound to happen to your schedule? And is it tough as a player dealing with that?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. We kind of have a culture that's just ready for like anything, especially this year. And going back to the whole being grateful, like I've already said, our coach is always talking about, that we have to be aware that we're like in a good position, like playing games and stuff like that. So when there is a schedule change, it's always tough, and you're always like, oh, I wanted to play, obviously, but just focusing on the next game. And even if you don't have, like when our last series in December got canceled and we had no idea when we were playing again, we just had high hopes. So,
Yeah, and how has your preparation changed for this season compared to other years when you're in high school? Because I know with the flexible schedule, you can't really pre-scout as well as you used
mhm.
to. How's that preparation changed for this year?
Mm, I would say it hasn't changed like as significantly as you might think. We still watch like film, whether it be from like previous years or even like our own practice film, the day of both of our games on the weekend. And then we've been watching a lot of film of, like I said, practice. And our games, just working on stuff like that. So
Yeah, 3-on-3 overtime has also been introduced to college hockey this year. What is that going to be like for yourself when you get the opportunity to play one, especially with more offensive opportunities and more open ice?
I'm excited. We did a lot of we had weekly scrimmages in our very long preseason, so we'd always incorporate some 3v3. So I'm excited. I'm confident. Like you said, there's a lot of open ice, and I think we're a very creative team, so I think we'd capitalize on it.
Now, how has your freshman class looked like so far in your eyes, and how have you adapted to the new team, especially since the rest of your freshman class will be a key part of your team moving forward for the next 3 seasons?
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like you said, they're all super like talented girls. They're great on and off the ice, and they've definitely helped me grow a lot as a player already. And I'm excited to see where we go from here.
Yeah, and how have the upperclassmen helped your transition into college hockey, especially players like Gabby Hughes and Ashton Bell, who are great leaders for your team?
Yeah, for sure. We have a very old team, so I think we have 11 juniors. So even before we all got here, they were all reaching out to us, all of our captains, Mackenzie Revering and Anna Klein included. Besides Ashton, they're all, like I said earlier, on the ice, off the ice, super communicative, always cheering us on, and just super positive with everything going on. And like you said, like everything with COVID impacting us. So it's been awesome. And I definitely look up to them. And I'm always asking questions on the ice, whether it's to them or the coaches, and they're super helpful.
Yeah, what has been the biggest improvement you've made to your game since your last year with Edina?
Mm, It's a good question. Like I said, I had a hard time adjusting to the physicality of the game, so I think that I haven't played to my fullest potential, but I've definitely been um, like aware of that and talking to my coaches, my teammates, and what I can do better. So um, I would say just yeah, getting back to my game that I like played at Edina and other places has been a priority of mine these past couple of weeks with a break in games.
Yeah, and what's it like to play under Coach Kroll, and how has she helped your game so far? Because I know she was your coach for the World Junior Championships last year.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. I'd like run into a wall for her. The opportunity to play under her at USA Hockey definitely strengthened our relationship even before coming here. Um, and she's very similar no matter where she's coaching. Um, and yeah, she's great. She's always like, she sends out a practice plan the night before all of our practices and always has like some inspirational quote, something like that. But she's just such a great person on off the ice. She stresses a lot about being grateful, like I've brought up a couple times now. And she's just super positive and just such a great role model. I really look up to her.
Now, how was your off season this year, even though it was very extended? And what did you do to prepare for this upcoming season with all the challenges that you've probably faced, like with less ice time and gyms being closed?
Yeah, so this summer I was in Idaho, which is my kind of hometown. So I was just doing like the workouts that our trainer would send us and hoping that I was doing enough conditioning. And then once we got here, we had captain's practices for a couple weeks and weren't able to see the coaches for I think 2 or 3 weeks, which was like definitely super weird as freshmen coming in. And like I think that's usually like there's a time when the coaches don't skate with us, but that was odd, but it was super fun just like having the captains and just being with the girls. And then once the coaches came in, they're very purposeful in everything they do. So we were right away just working on we did a lot of like battle drills in the beginning and moving our way up to more like line stuff, but we started with a lot of individual skills, which was definitely um, a good use of time with the long off season. So
Now, I want to transitioning to the beginning of your hockey career. You're from Idaho, like you just said. How did you start playing hockey and falling in love with the sport? And what's it like growing up there?
yeah, so I had two older brothers. One's 98, one's 97. So they're a bit older than me, and they started playing like roller hockey. So the story goes, and then all the roller hockey people were like, "Oh, are you gonna come out for the ice season?" And my mom was like, "What? Like, what am I getting myself into? And my dad is like, this is full contact sport. But they loved it. And so when I was, growing up, since I'm 5 years younger than my oldest brother, I was just around it, like my second birthday or my birthday, like when I was born. My brother's fifth birthday was 2 weeks later, and his party was at the rink. So I've just grown up around it. I started figure skating, hated it. And then I played boys till I was 14. I was the only girl on my team. There's I knew of two other girls that played, like 5 years older than me, um, till I was 14. And in that same time frame, middle schoolish, I got the opportunity to try out for the West Coast Selects under Kathy Pippy, which is like a national um, kind of all-star team, and that was the first time I'd skated with girls. And it's funny looking back now because girls like Abby Murphy, or Josie, sorry, they were all on that team. And then I played in St. Louis when I was in 8th grade for a girls team. And I lived in Idaho, so I was always traveling. I didn't billet in St. Louis. And then in 8th grade was when we started looking at boarding schools, because like I said, Idaho wasn't really ideal place to play. Luckily I had some phenomenal coaches growing up, but I couldn't stay there to keep up, or the trajectory that I was headed on anyways. So then we started looking at boarding schools, and I was given the opportunity to go to Selects Academy in Rochester, New York, which was a awesome family decision that we made. And I headed out there for 2 years, and same thing, I had really good coaching, was able to really learn things that to this day I don't think I'd know. Is super important, like work ethic, stuff like that, and then nitty-gritty details like how to forecheck. And those teams were super talented that I was on. My sophomore year, we were national runner-ups. And then my sophomore year, I wasn't really doing well as a person, my mental health. So my family decided to switch it up a little bit, but still maintain my hockey. Um, yeah. So at that point, I was verbally committed to Harvard University to play. So I couldn't just go back to Idaho and play tier two with the guys anymore, which is a bummer. But so we made the decision to move to Minnesota, and then I was given the opportunity to play for Edina and was super successful there too. We were state champions my junior year, and then runner-ups again my senior year. So
Yeah, what's it like to be the only girl on a hockey team, and how did that help your development playing with the boys? And was it weird being one of the only girls that you knew of playing hockey, I guess, in Idaho?
yeah, it's definitely weird. I didn't really know coming to Minnesota now, the girls that I've played with here always talk about how they grew up going to the U to watch games since they were could walk. And so I didn't know that there was women's college hockey, let alone teams full of girls, till I was 10, 12. Um, I've definitely had good experiences being the only girl. My coaches were always super supportive. I think that a lot of them, I was the first girl that they had really coached, so they didn't really know what to do with me, but I fit right in, was always pushing myself, and the guys are some of my best friends to this day. So yeah.
And do you think going around to all those different teams helped your hockey development, getting different experiences and learning under different coaches?
Definitely, like you said, learning under different coaches is what sticks out to me the most. And just from all over, my boys coach growing up actually graduated from Edina, so it was a little bit of a small world. But yeah, just taking what I can from everyone, and I built a lot of really great relationships with all the coaches that I've had, which has definitely helped in the long run.
Now, did you have a favorite player growing up, and do you try to model your game after their game a little bit?
Mm, I think what comes to mind is Hillary Knight, even though she's significantly taller than me and plays a very different game. So I'd probably say I don't model my game after her, but since she claims her hometown is in Idaho, I've had the chance to meet her a couple of times, and um, before she um, has become one of the top names in women's hockey, which is really cool to see her grow. And she's always been super humble with, younger girls like me. And then as I've had the opportunity to play for the national team, seeing her recently has been super awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you just mentioned before Duluth, you played for Edina High School. What was it like playing there, and talk about your experience there as a whole?
Yeah, I loved playing for Edina. Same thing. My coach, Sammy Reber, is phenomenal. She played at Harvard. And at the time, I was verbally committed there. So that was just kind of another small world thing. But yeah, the culture at Edina was phenomenal before I got there. And I would like to say that I, left my impact. Um, and I had the opportunity to play with some great players. Annie Keel plays at Princeton, CC Bowlby plays at Dartmouth, Mallory Uline plays at Penn State now. That core group of seniors that I came in my junior year playing with, I still keep in touch with and still look up to as players and as people. And then my senior year was super fun. Um, it was definitely a bit of a rough end. Losing in the state championship was super hard, but I definitely take away a lot of stuff from Edina and just having that kind of chip on your shoulder because everyone hates Edina. So now, even when I talk about when I play there, like we were out in an outdoor rink the other day and we were talking about where we played high school from, just with some like random boys from Duluth, and they're like, "Oh, Edina, like we don't want her on her team," jokingly, of course. But yeah, just proving myself and proving where I came from, that I was able to contribute to such a good team, um, is something I don't take for granted.
So is Edina like the New England Patriots or like the Toronto Maple Leafs of Minnesota high school hockey?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to elaborate more on some of the players you got to play with. You got to play with Mallory Ulian, like you just mentioned, who's at Penn
Mhm.
State, and Tella Jungles, who's at Minnesota right now. What's it like playing with those players, and how did that help your hockey development, competing against them in practice every day?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say it definitely made me better as a player. I like to watch like other players when I'm like, in a drill when you're like in a line just waiting. So I picked up on some small things that players like Mal and Tella are always doing. We worked in like the off season with Tella's dad a lot. He'd always run practices with a group of girls from the cities. Um, so yeah, the Jungles family is amazing. Their younger sister Vivian, or her younger sister Vivian, is also right up there with some of the top players that I've played with. So yeah, it comes down to like small details. Tella's always working hard, no matter what drill it is, and even if she's going up against someone like Mal, that's very skilled too. She always trusts that she can come out with the puck, which is something that I took away from her. And Mal's a super solid D. Is always capitalizing. She's super calm with the puck. Yeah, so little things like that, practice on and off the ice, just habits. And yeah,
Yeah, well, how did your time at Edina help prepare you for college hockey?
I would say just playing at that high caliber. At Edina, we were super, had a lot of depth. So trusting that everyone is meant to be there and earns the time they get on the ice is something that I still believe in to this day. And now I'm not, first line power play PK like I was at Edina. So just knowing and trusting that um, my role on the team is still there, still important in college hockey. And like I said earlier, with that kind of chip on our shoulders, target on our backs at Edina, I think I incorporate into my play here at Duluth, just because Duluth is known to be that like very gritty, never going to give up team, blocking shots, just all the small details. So, yeah, I think they correlate really well with teams that I've played for.
And what was your favorite memory at Edina?
Definitely winning the state championship my junior year. It was unbelievable. I kind of feels like I get kind of imposter syndrome when I think about it because it was just such an unbelievable experience, especially my first year coming in and just having the team be so welcoming to me. And that was the third year that they had won it in a row. So that was definitely really big. It like broke all these records. And just seeing everyone like just bawl their eyes out while standing on the blue line is something I'll never forget.
Now, what is the Minnesota high school hockey scene like? Because I've seen clips of it on YouTube, and it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Because being from the East Coast, I don't think people from Minnesota realize how like high school hockey is just not as popular as it is up in Minnesota. So, what's it like being in part of that atmosphere and setting? And is it weird meeting people like myself from the East Coast who just don't get the Minnesota high school hockey scene?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get it either before I got there. Like, when my family was first moving there and they were telling us, like, you're going to skate more in the summer than you do in the winter, like all this different stuff. Like, there's like 4 rinks within 15 minutes of you. And at home in Idaho, there's like 2 within 2 hours, right? So I was definitely like eyes wide open when I first got there. And yeah, it's a bit of its own world. Everyone that plays here, I'd like to think is knows that they're super lucky. Um, yeah, the as far as the state tournament goes, we play at where the Wild play, the XL Energy Center in St. Paul, and it's like you're professionals. You have TVs in the locker room. There's like snack room. Bauer comes and you can like have them do your skates and all this different stuff. And yeah, the treatment is phenomenal there. It's every kid, well, so I've been told every kid dreams of like playing in the state tournament, girl or boy. And as far as the boys side goes, I watched both tournaments both years that I played there. And my junior year our boys team won too, so that was insane. I remember I was there at the Excel Energy Center and it was packed. It wasn't sold out because like I said, um, people were not so excited that Edina was in the finals, but yeah, it's unbelievable. The hockey community, you wear your at Edina were the Hornets, so I was wearing like Hornet apparel. Was as I was going around in high school, just to different cities, and people would always ask about it and say, "Oh, like I'm following. Like, when's your next game?" Yada yada. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. I kind of wish that Massachusetts would have something like that, but
Yeah,
it's just different, I guess. So
yeah.
now you got to represent your country in the U18 World Championships. What is the process for getting selected on Team USA, and how did you find out you were going to Slovakia?
Yeah, so the process is really thorough. So you try out for 4 years until you're 18 and then you age out. So I was originally trying out from Idaho. I tried out from Idaho for 3 years. Um, and in Idaho, it's a bit different. You have a state tryout, and there's like, less than 30 people in the whole state that like are eligible to play. And then you go to a multi-district camp. That's the Pacific district. So like Alaska, all those schools, and then the Rocky Mountains. So Idaho, New Mexico, Colorado, and then there's the Northern Plains, so the Dakotas and some other states. And then that camp is in Colorado. It's usually at Colorado College, and it's a week-long thing. And then from there, you can get selected for the U15 national camp if you're that young. And then from there, there's a U16, U17 camp, and then a U18 camp, U18 select camp. So I kind of worked my way up. I made U15 national camp. The next year I made U16, U17 camp. And my last year to try out, I made U18 select camp. And that's usually mid-July. In It's usually in Maine, but they've since changed it to being in St. Cloud here in Minnesota. So I went there, and then at that camp at the end, actually, they sit you all down. There's like almost 70 of us. They sit you all down, and they like have this PowerPoint that goes through who's made it to the next level, or the next step, which is the National Festival, which is in Lake Placid. Usually in August. So that's super nerve wracking. It's like alphabetical. You like know when your name's coming up. So yeah, my last year to try out, I was lucky enough to make it to Lake Placid. So we went out there in August, and kind of a similar thing. There's like just over 30 girls at that camp. Again, you have the spread of all 4 years. And then you kind of train, play each other for like under a week, and then same thing, they pull up the PowerPoint and do either make or don't make the festival like series team. So Team Canada ends up coming, and there's a weekend where you play games. So I made that team, and we played Canada um, 2 or 3 times. It all blends together now. And then we go home, and we kind of sit in anticipation for a couple months. And I got the call, I want to say mid-November, early November, that I was invited to Slovakia with the national team, which is a dream come true. I'm pretty sure I like cried on the phone in disbelief, but I also know that I've earned it, and I worked super hard, obviously. And I think it was that much more special that I made it the last year that I could try out when I was like peaking, for lack of better words, in my play. But yeah, so then we headed out to Slovakia kind of mid-December, and we're there for 2 weeks for the tournament.
Was there any culture shock you faced going there, since it's like a kind of a completely different country than the U.S. is?
Yeah, I wouldn't say culture shock. We didn't really spend that much time like out and about. It was like we spent a lot of time with each other, which was super cool. But yeah, it was my first time to Europe, so that was really fun and eye opening for sure. Um, uh, I would say the hardest adjustment was like the food. We were always eating like just like pasta and like chicken. Like it was very like low key. But yeah, it was really cool playing all the different teams from all over, like Finland, Russia, obviously Canada, and meeting those girls. And yeah,
What was it like winning the gold medal? What emotions were you feeling? And where's the gold medal at the moment? Where do you try to keep it?
it's currently at my house in Idaho. I didn't bring it here; I was too prized of a possession. But it was unbelievable watching the World Juniors. Obviously, the past couple of days it brought back a lot of deja vu, and yeah, the tournament was awesome. USA Hockey's culture is, um, you know, gold standard, like the boys say. Um, and yeah, we did a lot of preparation. It's hard because, we all played on our different teams and we come together for 2 weeks. Like you're all like the first week, you're like changing lines, like mid practice, basically just trying to figure out what works. But we really stressed, the gratitude thing, playing for your country, knowing what that means. And obviously the rivalry between USA and Canada. So by the time, so we had our pool play, and we actually lost to Canada. And then that definitely lit a fire under our asses for the gold medal game. And by the time we got there, there was no doubt in any of our minds that, that was the game we were going to win. So yeah, I remember it really well. Crazy overtime goal, game winner, jumping over the boards and, mobbing our goalie and whatnot, and then getting our medals and like screaming the national anthem at the blue line. It's what every hockey player dreams of, no matter where they're from. You want to do that for your country. So doing that so young is something I think about really often. And the teammates that I had are all playing Division One somewhere. I've been able to play a lot of them, like you've already said. Girls at the U, Maggie Nicholson, our leadership group. Yeah, it was phenomenal. And it was a super deep team. I trusted that everyone, was there for a reason. We were all, excited to be there and capitalized on it.
And you also got to play with your UMD teammate, Clara Van Wieren. What was it like playing with her in that tournament, knowing that you were going to be college teammates in the future?
Yeah, I love Clara. I've actually played with Clara since I was like 13, 14. She was on that West Coast Select team that I've mentioned before. And we've played each other, on and off through high school. And so I love that Clara's on my team because I'd hate playing against her. She's very good with her stick, and possessing the puck. And Same thing, like when she's on defense, she's going to get the puck. Like I just know it. So it's been phenomenal to watch her flourish here at UMD. She's had a really good, first year that so far. So I'm excited to see where she goes from here. And she's awesome off the ice too. I love hanging out with her. So great friend to have.
Now, talk about your recruiting process. Why did you go to Minnesota Duluth? Because you originally said you verbally committed to Harvard like a few years ago.
Yeah, so I verbally committed to Harvard my sophomore year, and that was all like all the recruiting had been like through Selects Academy because I was playing there at the time. And then the summer after my first year at Edina, so summer before senior year, we had to decommit for financial reasons. So that was definitely tough. And Minnesota Duluth was one of the first schools that kind of swooped me up after my recruiting was open again, and I was able to come visit because I hadn't been to Duluth to the campus anyways before, and since it's so close relatively to the city's 2-hour drive isn't that bad, so we came up and I loved it, couldn't see myself anywhere else. And I had already met Coach Kroll a couple times through USA Hockey stuff or like seen her talk through camps, but when I came and met the assistant coaches, I was just sold. So then I committed a couple weeks later, and I can't imagine myself anywhere else.
We're now in the non-hockey segment of the podcast where I ask you some non-hockey questions. My first one is, what other sports do you like to watch besides hockey?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't really like watching sports, to be honest. Um, some of the other sports I've played are like lacrosse. I ran track. Track's not that enjoyable to watch, though. But I'll watch anything. I'm not super picky. Soccer's fun. Lacrosse. Yeah.
Do you like watch the NHL or anything like that, or just
Yeah, I watch the NHL, and I try to watch other women's game like college games when I can, or professional games, like the national team, obviously. I don't really have a favorite NHL team. Might have to jump on the Golden Knights bandwagon, but
yeah? Yeah, what's it like watching other college hockey games as a player? And do you like try to pick up on things, especially when you watch other WCHA teams play?
yeah, for sure. And there's always, the girls that stick out from each team. And, maybe they're older, maybe they're younger. But so for me, like I've kind of said before, I'm huge on the details. So watching people's, habits, their body language, stuff like that. And then if it's an opponent, watching their more like strategy type stuff, like how they play the game so that when we play them, like we can combat that. But yeah.
And what is your favorite TV show to binge?
I don't really watch TV. I'm trying to think. We watched The Bachelor as a team, so I'd maybe say that.
What's your thoughts on Matt? He seems like a good guy.
Yeah, he does seem like a good guy.
Now, if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Hmm. I listen to a lot of music, so I'd probably say one of my favorite artists. So either like Lana Del Rey or Khalid, any of those people, like I'd have lunch with like Justin Bieber too, like
Yeah.
any music person.
What's your thoughts on his new song you just released?
I
Justin.
listen to it like every day.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's
Yeah.
pretty sad, but it's pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Now, what music do you like to listen to on a general basis, those artists, and what pumps you up before a game?
I'd say my favorite like genres alternative. I kind of listen to everything. I make monthly playlists, so I listen to like the same like 15, 20 songs on repeat for a month. Um, and before games, I have like a variety. Like we listen to everything from rock to like rap and pop. So it kind of depends. I'm not super picky. I usually ox for the team before games. So whatever the girls want, I play.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of your teammates, who's the funniest on the team?
Funniest on the team. I've been asked this before. I think I said Maggie Flattery. And if I didn't, I'm changing my answer to that. She's hilarious.
Now, besides yourself, who has the best style on the team?
Ashton Bell for sure.
Now, back to some hockey questions. Now, my first one is, what do you think should be done to help grow women's hockey?
I think it's growing a ton as it is. It's really cool to see like the NHL, incorporating more women into their game, like Kendall Coyne coaching or helping coach with the Chicago Blackhawks. And even when she can't, like when girls go to the All-Star game, All-Star skills thing, there's definitely a All-Stars competition. Um, that's been super cool to see the last couple of years, or even like um, the woman coach at World Juniors this year. That was the first medaled woman in the tournament. So it's really cool. I think that's important that organizations like the NHL and just teams recognize like men's programs recognize the women thing, because it takes it like we can only do so much for ourselves. But yeah, so I would say that has been really cool. I'd like to see just more girls programs all over, because obviously I've come from a city that doesn't have a girls team. So that's not something you make overnight, but I think that's what I'd like to see in the future. Just more of all that.
Now, how do you balance both academics and hockey at such a high level?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think what's helped me a lot is that I went to boarding school. So being taught more or less time management from a young age when I was, 15, 16 is definitely helpful now. And just making priorities. I'm a big list person. I had a bullet journal. So I was just crossing things off and making sure I uh, prioritize academics even when I don't want to. But I love school, so that's never really an issue.
Now, what advice would you give a younger player trying to make D1 college hockey?
I would just keep saying like work your hardest. Work ethic is a huge core value of mine. I was um, whenever I could be the first player on and last player off the ice. So I was always doing stuff before, and even if you don't know, the most effective drills, even if you're just skating around and shooting before and after practice, or finding somewhere to shoot pucks, or, doing workouts when other girls aren't. I think that's really important and just shows your commitment to the game. And coaches are going to see that for sure. I would also say be coachable, ask questions, be open to criticism. It's hard sometimes because sometimes a coach doesn't know like who you are as a person and how you're going to respond to something. So as someone that does take stuff super personal, sometimes it's been something I've had to challenge myself to just say, okay, this person wants me to be better. Like they're not like saying that I'm like bad at this or that. And yeah, just kind of taking everything with a grain of salt and trusting your strengths for sure. So
Now, what should I do better as an interviewer to improve this podcast?
I think you've been good. I don't have anything. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Now, is
Yeah.
there any shout outs you'd like to give to any of your teammates, family members, or anyone else you might know?
Yeah, shout out to my family, my mom and dad. I'm missing them. I'm not sure when I'm going to see them next. So that's always tough. But yeah, and it's one of my brother's birthdays coming up here at the end of the month. So happy early birthday, Matt. Vince, I'm sure he's hanging in there too. And yeah, shout out to all the girls on my team, coaches, everyone that's gotten me here.
We want to wish you a happy birthday as well. I was doing research. It's tomorrow, so happy
Yeah,
birthday
thank
to
you.
you. And hopefully, you have a good day. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Katie. I really appreciate it. I wish you all the best and the best for the rest of your team. And take care and stay safe.
Thank you so much. You too.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.